Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and Carlo. On today's show, we will react to the weekend's Serie A action. Lazio and Roma playing out a thrilling Rome derby, which finishes 1-1. Inter completed a perfect week as after beating Bayern Munich in the Champions League, they beat Cagliari 3-1. Atalanta ended their three-game losing streak as they beat Bologna 2-0. An inspired Kenan Yildiz led Juventus to a crucial win over Lecce in the race for the top four. And it was a good weekend for Juventus as all the teams below them in the race for the top four all slipped up. Milan, though, returned to form as they thrashed Udinese 4-0 with an inspired Rafael Leao and Theo Hernandez, who flourished in a new formation. And we'll also preview the second legs of all the European quarterfinals, including Inter hosting Bayern Munich, Lazio needing a big comeback against Glimt, and Fiorentina hoping to finish the job off against Celje in the Champions League, or in the Conference League rather. We'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface and Serie ASS of the week, including another betting scandal in Serie A. There always has to be at least one a season, doesn't there? So that's what we've got coming up on the show. A quick heads up for all the Serie A fans in the UK and Ireland. You can stream every single match on OneFootball. And no matter which team you are backing, OneFootball's got you covered. You can watch via the OneFootball app on your phone or on connected TVs from Apple TV, Google TV, Samsung, LG, and Fire TV, or on the website tv.onefootball. And what's even better is that you can choose how you watch it. You can grab a team or season pass to watch all the matches until the end of the season, or just the ones from your favourite club. There's also a match day pass for £9.99 to watch all the weekend's games, or a single match or on pay-per-view for £4.99. And if you miss the live game, you'll still get access to all the match highlights too. So if Serie A is your thing, which I assume it is because you're listening to this show, OneFootball is where it's at. And we'll have a link in the description of the episode for you to buy your preferred stream. And for all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week without any ads, including our weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday, where we answer all of the questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $3.99 a month. You can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify for the same price. The link is in the description. You can also now watch us on YouTube. This is the second week that we've been recording a video for all our podcasts. So do watch us on YouTube. Do subscribe to us on YouTube. You can also become a patron on YouTube via YouTube memberships. So just go to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/@itafootpod for more details. And for all of you that do listen on Spotify, Apple, and iTunes podcast, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. As I said before, also subscribe to us on YouTube and like our content on YouTube, because all of that, it really helps us to grow and build and do more content for you guys. Okay, let's get into today's show. So we'll start off with the Rome derby, of course, the big Sunday evening game at the Stadio Olimpico. It finishes 1-1. It was a thrilling game, a gripping game. I really enjoyed it. I couldn't take my eyes off the match. But before we talk, Nima, about both teams, one then the other, I want to first of all start off with that choreography before the game, because wow, I mean, we know that Italian football teams and Italian football is probably the best in the world when it comes to choreography and the tifos before the game. But I mean, the Rome derby, I mean, they sometimes take it to another level, and this was absolutely magnificent from both teams, especially from Lazio. I mean, first of all, can you just describe to everyone like what was on offer there before the game?
It was unbelievably beautiful because they done it. The choreography, the Tifo went all around the stadium except for where the Roma fans were in Curva Sud, and it was all landmarks of Rome. It was the Colosseum. It was from the Foro Romano. It was I think it was the Temple of Saturn, and it was the Temple of Castor as well. And then you had I think I saw another landmark as well, Hadrian's Mausoleum, and it was just basically all of these classical landmarks of Rome, and then with the banner Lazio è dove sono I Laziali. Lazio, the region, is where the Laziali are, which is a play on words, because obviously Roma fans, or the general like stereotype is that Lazio fans come from outside of Rome. Roma fans live inside the city. Obviously, Lazio is more excuse me. Lazio is older than Rome, than Roma, and so they were playing a little bit playing on words there. But it was truly stunning. It was, if you add in the Di Bartolomeo thing that Roma did with the classic Roma shirts through the years, and I thought I saw also Lazio fans do they drawn imagery of classic imagery from Lazio's history.
Yeah, just to come in there, Agostino Di Bartolomeo was a Roma legend who played for Roma in the 1980s. He was the captain when they reached when they won the league, and when they in 1983, and when they reached the European Cup final in a year later, and he actually committed suicide 10 years to the day later after that European Cup final against Liverpool. I know that because it was on my birthday. So it was on my 10th birthday that he committed suicide. I remember that day very well. So yeah, that was a beautiful tribute as well. But I mean, just the choreography in general was unbelievable. And Roma fans put up a band, didn't they? One city, one shirt. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah. And it was, the Roma fans had all these shirts, the classic Roma shirts through the ages behind them as well. Up there, you had Di Bartolomeo. There's the big one, and then the Lazio fans had all these landmarks. Like I said, the Temple of Saturn, the Temple of Castor. They had Foro Romano. These obviously from Foro Romano. They had the Colosseum. They had the Castel Sant'Angelo, which is the mausoleum of Adrian, the emperor. And of course, added to that, I thought I saw many images as well, like classical images from Lazio's history, and all of this tied together with the banner, Lazio dove sono I Laziali. Lazio, the region, is where the Laziali are, which is a play on words, of course, as I said. It was.
How long did they take to make these banners?
You see, I have to say, I was blessed. I feel blessed to have been at that Milan derby, which was probably qualitatively the worst Milan derby I've ever seen, with Mexes and Ranocchia as captains in a goalless draw. But it was the most beautiful choreography I've ever seen in my life that the Curvanor did. The Castello Tifo, it's known as. This was, I'd say, I don't like to compare, but this was at that level, if not better. It was truly unbelievable. It was truly remarkable. It was a complete work.
What was amazing was the whole stadium. Around. It wasn't just one curva or one stand.
It's Italian football at its most mesmerizingly beautiful best, in its eternal glory for the world to see, and it was just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it was stunning, and we're going to come on to a little bit later in this segment about the marketing and the lack of marketing for this game worldwide with Serie A. But this, just to say now that this is something that is the most easily sellable thing around the world. This beautiful choreography. This is something that nobody else, no other leagues can do to this level. And this is something that stands out. And this is, if I was in charge of marketing Serie A, this would be everywhere. I would have this put everywhere. It's so easy. It's such an easy sell. It was beautiful. And as for the game itself, I thought the game was very enjoyable as well. If we start from the Lazio perspective, I thought that Lazio played a really good game. I thought that they've been in really poor form. They've looked like they're tiring recently. They were a complete disaster against Bodo Glimt in the Europa League, losing 2-0 away. Probably should have been 4 or 5. They're lucky that they've still got a little bit of a prayer to turn that around, even if it's going to be very difficult. But this was more like the Lazio that we've seen for most of the season until this kind of recent bad run. And they deserved to win the game. They missed a lot of chances. And Svilar, as we'll come on to when we talk about Roma, Svilar performed some miracles for them. So, I can't really criticize Lazio at all. I thought they played a really, really good game. And they just were missing the final finish.
I thought Lazio were excellent in the first half. I liked the level of aggression. I liked their cohesive press, the way they nullified Roma, the way they pegged Roma back, the way the runs from deep in midfield. I thought the midfield was really good. I really liked Lazio in the first half. And Svilar made some insane saves. We can blame Romagnoli for maybe should have directed his header better. But the more I look at that replay, that is just an insane save. Like it's a powerful header. It's a bullet header, and he manages to save it. It's just absolutely stunning. I really liked Lazio in the first half. I thought Roma were almost a bit shell-shocked, who were hanging on for the first half. But then what I don't like about Lazio is that in the second half, Roma come out flying, swinging. And Lazio, you think, you want to absorb. You don't want to make too many changes in the 45th to 55th minute. You want to absorb the pressure. You want to see what you can do. But Baroni didn't do anything until the 75th minute after they equalized, after a beautiful goal. And that's not good enough, because that goal was completely logical. The equalizer was completely logical. The way that Roma in the second half imposed themselves, pushed Lazio back, pegged them back, created dominance, created chances, started putting Lazio under an enormous amount of pressure, and Baroni made no changes. I don't like that. I didn't like that at all, and I feel like that's where this win was thrown away. And it is thrown away for Lazio, because they needed to win this on a weekend where Bologna dropped points because Atalanta won, Juve beat Lecce. They needed a win here, and it was there for the taking. Yes, they still managed to create lots of chances. And again, Svilar and Mandas, we have to acknowledge both of these goalkeepers were fantastic. And Svilar obviously had more to do, and of course he will get the higher grade. And he was probably Roma's best player, together with Solé and some others. But for me, I feel, if I look at this strictly from a Lazio perspective, I feel annoyed. I would feel annoyed. I would be, this is a game thrown away. These are 3 points thrown away, mainly because of the lack of in-game management, correct in-game management, which is something that Baroni's been really good at. I think he's been excellent this season at his in-game management, his substitutions, his rotations. This last week, he has not gotten it right. Okay, playing in snow in -10 is not easy. The ball doesn't roll, and it's a synthetic pitch. But the attitude, the way that they just approached that game against Bodo Glimt was terrible. This was a much better performance in terms of attitude, but you expect that in a derby. However, the in-game management was atrocious, because again, too reactive, too slow, and by the time the changes were made, the equalizer was there, and Roma were in this game again. And I feel Baroni made a mistake there.
Well, I think I think to try and take the positives from this game, this is the Lazio, the real Lazio were back, and they need to just take this on now for a strong finish. They've got Bodo Glimt on Thursday. Let's hope that this can inspire them to a famous comeback. I don't think that ties over. I think that if they can score early, if they can play like this and score early, we have to see what they're like physically and mentally. It's always draining playing a derby. But if they can score early, I think they've got a chance. Playing like this, they play like this against Bodo Glimt on Thursday. I think they've got a chance of a famous comeback. If they play like they've been playing in the games before the derby, then there's no chance. So let's hope that they're 3 points behind Juventus in fourth now. They're 5 points behind Atalanta in third. So yes, they probably did need to win this, but they've got a decent running. I think they've got Genoa, Parma, Empoli as their next three matches now. 3 matches that they should be winning on paper. So they win those 3 matches, then they're playing Juventus at home, and that becomes potentially a winner takes all tie. So really, Lazio they're still in there, but they've got to keep this level up for their next matches, and then yes, that Juventus game at home will be the key one for this top four place. But if we talk about this from Roma perspective, it wasn't the best Roma performance. They come into this game as the form team, and it's always often the case with derbies, that the team that's in form often plays worse in the derby, whereas the team that are not in form generally, we've seen it a lot in a lot of derbies, in Milan derbies as well. We've seen that happen. But for the first hour, I thought that they were under par, very under par, kept in the game by Svilar. But then they fight back like they always do. And this is the strength of this Ranieri Roma, that however they're playing, they're never out of it. They never give up. They always fight. And they after the substitutions, they fought back and they got the equaliser. And I mean, what a goal from Sule. I mean, that's just gorgeous. It's 30 yards out, curler off the bottom of the crossbar over the line. I mean, that's a goal that's worthy of a Rome derby. That is. And Ranieri said at the end of the game that the future of Rome is Sule's, which I thought was lovely. And he was really the only outfield player that looked dangerous in this game for Roma, and he delivered. And it was a moment of individual brilliance that saved Roma really in this game. And what a goal!
I'm glad he said that, because I think I said something similar 4 weeks ago, about how the future of Roma lies in Mattia Sule's feet, and they should build around him. And I'm so glad that Claudio Ranieri acknowledges that. And he did it after Mattia Sule proved to be decisive. It's games like these where you need to step up and produce that moment of magic. And he did it. It was absolutely fantastic. It was so beautiful. He is a special player. And we saw it to much lesser extent at Frosinone. This season has been very difficult for him. But if he can end it on a high, which a goal in the Rome derby forgives many sins. In Italian football, a goal in a derby, an important goal in a derby, forgives many a sin. And he's been on good form too as well. He scored a magical free kick a couple of weeks ago. It's turned around for him, and I'm glad that Claudio Ranieri, who's going to kind of head this new project, this Rome project, acknowledges that and says, look, he is our future. He's the patrimonio della Roma. He's going to be the one we build around. He's the center of the project. That's very important for him to hear. That's very important for the entire environment and fan base to hear, especially with a Dybala whose fitness is not getting any better. We don't even know if he's going to stay next season because of his contract situation as well. I mean, he's making too much money, and can Roma even afford to have him, and so on and so forth. But it's the most important thing for Roma is that they continue, that they have this kind of continuity in terms of having someone to build around, that everything that happened last summer was not a disaster. And Mateo Sule is far from a disaster, and that they're going to build around him regardless of the system, regardless
and football
of the coach.
needs players like him as well, not just Roma. We don't have enough of these players, these kind of fantasistas, these individuals, these players that can score and create and do what he did in the Rome derby out of nothing. We just don't have these players anymore. It's all robots. We complain about it all the time. It's all robots, pressing robots, and having someone like him is, we need more of these. These are the players that make you want to watch football matches, and these are the kind of players that you idolize as a kid, and the players that make you fall in love with football, at the start. And we don't have any of these players. These players are disappearing because we're training robots, and much like the world. but so it's fantastic, and I do love watching him play, even when he's not playing well. I love to watch him play, and he's a bit of a poor man's Lamine Yamal, I think, in his style of play. Obviously, Yamal is a phenomenon, and he's going to win Ballon d'Ors and everything. But I just the way that he plays, he's an enjoyable player to watch, just like Yamal is, and that's great. But at the end of the day, in this match, Roma only come out of this game with a draw because of Svilar. Svilar made 2 absolute wonder saves in this game. The save from Romagnoli at 0-0 is insane. The strength of on his wrist to be able to, a bit like the one with Nico Gonzalez, like if you have to have a really strong wrist to be able to, for that not to just go through you and into the goal because of the power on it and the direction. Amazing. And then he made another great save from Isaacson that was going into the top corner as well, also at 0-0. And then even at the end, the double save from his own player where he had to react fast, and then Boulaïdia straight after. I think we have to ask now, is he the best goalkeeper in Serie A? He's got the highest save percentage in Serie A as well. I have to say I've been won over now. I think he's the best goalkeeper in Serie A.
I think on form, he is the best goalkeeper in the Serie A. I don't think there's much of a discussion. I mean, the last 5-10 rounds of the Serie A, he's been the best. Absolutely. He's not even made a mistake. He doesn't make any mistakes. He makes decisive saves. Like you alluded to, and like I alluded to, for me, first I was a bit annoyed with Romagnoli for not being able to, direct that header somewhere else. But then you look at the replay and you see, like you said, the strength. It's a bullet header. It doesn't that should be in the back of the net. But he's got such wrist strength, and he's positioned so well, and he's reacted so well that the power of the ball is used against the ball to keep it out. Which is really, really impressive. And for me, the one at the end, Boulaïdia is just, that is just insane. Like that, the reactions as well. It's just mental. I think right on form, he is the goalkeeper of the season. He is right now the best goalkeeper in the Serie A. Whether or not he's the goalkeeper of the season, he's certainly thereabouts. I think this season, I don't think there's been a clear, similarly to the MVP discussion, like who's been the best. I don't think we've had a clear goalkeeper of the season. I don't think we've had a clear MVP. I think there's many players that can throw their hats in the ring. For the goalkeeper of the season, absolutely, you can say that Svilar has thrown his hat in the ring, and he is a fantastic find by Roma. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, we also have to tip our hat to Daniele De Rossi. This is down to him as well. He put him in there when he was just a backup that was getting no game time, and got rid of, was it Rui Patricio when he was being a disaster forever for Roma, well done to
and also Rossi. I was just gonna finish my point. I mean, with Svilar, he's throwing his hat in the ring for the goalkeeper of the season. He's not made any mistakes. I'd say he's in a very good position if he continues like this, and if the save percentage continues to be this high, the highest in the Serie A, you have a strong case to make that he's the goalkeeper of the season overall, if in terms of consistency and height and level of performances height-wise. Similarly, you could say that about Zaccagni as the MVP. I think he's been a fantastic. I thought even in this game, wasn't maybe his best, but he's still so damn dangerous. He has this ability to shift his weight so easily from one foot on the other, because he's not the fastest player in the world, but because of the fact that he can shift his weight so easily, he becomes so damn difficult to mark, and he gets past. He's very technical. That when and then of course the trademark cutting in and shooting that with his right. He's got that ability about him that certain players, what they're going to do, but you still can't stop them because they're so difficult. They're so good at what they do. So there is that. It's.
I do want to talk one negative though for Roma, and that is Lorenzo Pellegrini. I'm just going to ask the question simple now. Should Roma sell Lorenzo Pellegrini at the end of the summer? What I think of it is, this season he's been horrendous. This season, the stats back it up. He's got 2 goals and 1 assist this season, and one of those goals was a penalty, as well. In this game, there was a Roma with Pellegrini and there was a Roma without Pellegrini in this game, and you saw the difference. As soon as Pellegrini came off, Roma were a completely different side. He's just too slow. I hate saying this. He's too slow for modern football. He's too slow. He's not dynamic enough with or without the ball, in offensive or in defensive phases. When he's got the ball, he's good on the ball. He's technically good. He's a good ball player, but he doesn't show enough of that anymore, as we've seen. He's not creating or scoring goals. But off the ball, he can't press, he can't tackle, he can't get anywhere near, he can't be part of the team unit of bringing that intensity as a unit, as a midfield unit, or as a team unit, and he just doesn't offer anything at all. He's a passenger in games, and I know a lot of Roma fans are have been not happy with him. I know he got the blame for the sackings of De Rossi and Mourinho. I don't know how fair that is. I don't know have any inside information on that, but I'm just talking about him on the pitch performances. I think there's a lot of Roma fans that are not really that happy with him. He's not really a regular or first team player anymore either. He's going to be 29 in the summer. I just think, and his contract runs out in a year. I would sell him. I would sell him.
There's been rumors and links of us Fratesi, Pellegrini plus cash swap. There's been talk of that quite a bit because Fratesi obviously coming from Rome, and he would love to return there. I don't know. It's a tricky one because, like you said, he's 29 now. He's not a promising youngster, and he's never really had a full consistent season at Roma. And he's the captain. He is from Rome. He's a Giallorossi through and through. Giallorosso through and through, but it's not working, and his contract is expiring, and he's been very clear that he wants to stay. This is his hometown club. The question is, can they afford to keep him? Not just financially, but if he's going to be there, he's going to expect to be the captain. But right now, or not just right now, but his career at Roma has not been that great, and this season it's been a little bit wheels come off kind of situation. I don't know. I find it difficult because on the one hand, I think Roma and Lazio should always have players from Rome in their clubs as focal points, at the center of the project. The fact that Romagnoli scored in the Rome derby, Mr. Lazio himself doing that, is very good for the derby. The identity of the derby with the fans, with the city, with everyone watching. I think that's really important. In fact, I would like to see Romagnoli be the captain of Lazio. I've said this for many years. I think he really should be. But what do you do if you're Roma? What do you do when you're faced with a situation? I think it's a tricky situation to resolve, and I think it's one of those situations that Ranieri. I'm kind of calmed from a Roma perspective that it's Claudio Ranieri that is there. He knows that environment in and out. He knows how to handle these situations. He's very diplomatic. But it's a tricky one. I think we could be in a situation where either he accepts a more diminished role, which I think is very difficult, or I think they get rid of him in the summer.
Yeah, I think so. I think that argument's the only argument for keeping him is you make the suggestion, well, how important is it having that kind of, Italian identity for most Italian teams, which we've spoken about, which too many teams have lacked, Milan, even increasingly Juventus, and they want to get more towards that. But also Roma, from a more Roman identity, how important is it to have those players to create success? And is it worth keeping a Pellegrini just for that rather than for his performance on the pitch? Then yes, I think that's the only argument for keeping him. Otherwise, because it's based on performance, he's not doing it. One last point I want to make. By the way, Roma top 4, going to be quite difficult now, 5 points off 4th and a very tough run in. But yeah, let's see how they do. They keep their unbeaten run going.
They've got Verona, Inter, Fiorentina, Atalanta, Milan, and Torino.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very, very difficult, which is a shame.
They're not making top 4. They're not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But the fact that they were even in discussions of a top 4 is just miraculous. Unbeaten in 2025 in Serie A. Ranieri.
Absolutely. One final point I want to make, right? And this is coming back to what we said at the start about this incredible choreography. This is the Rome derby. This is the biggest derby in Italy. The Milan derby might argue against that, but it's a historic game. It's a massive game, not just in Italy, but all over Europe. And the fact that there was 0 English-speaking broadcasters at the derby, no TV stations there at the game, covering the game pitch side. I'm told that there was a few English-speaking journalists at the game, but no broadcasters, no broadcasts from the match for the biggest derby in Italy. I'm not even necessarily criticising the TV stations here that much, although I am a little bit. But it shows how far we've fallen commercially as a league. That you've got the road derby, and there's no international coverage of the game with broadcasts from the game. That is damning for me, especially when you see that choreography and you think, wow, they should be there covering this. And this is the Rome derby. That really hammers home how bad a job we're doing at growing the league, at marketing the league. It's damning. It's absolutely damning that is the case. And the fact that, and again, this is not necessarily too much of necessarily a criticism of the TV station, but to give you an example, CBS, who are the broadcasters for Serie A in the United States. And, we've always said on this show, we've made fun about how the whole everything called TV rights it's all just focused on the United States, and the rest of the world doesn't even exist. It's all about the United States, and obviously CBS are the broadcasters for the United States. Now, CBS, the so-called saviors of Italian football, or America, the so-called saviors of Italian football, they sent a crew to cover the EFL trophy between Peterborough and Birmingham, instead of sending a crew to go to cover the Rome derby, one of the biggest games. Now, again, I'm not necessarily criticising CBS for this, although I do think it's ridiculous. But I'm not really. I'm more criticising the fact that we're at a situation now where, the only market that we even care about in terms of marketing the league and marketing the biggest game in Italy, the Rome derby. This is what we're putting all our eggs into, that basket. And they don't even send a crew. They send it to go and watch Peterborough play. Do you know what I mean? I know you get my point, but do you realise how ridiculous this all is?
This is the end result of 2 decades of bad decisions, one bad decision after another. This is just a natural consequence of stupid decisions and incompetent people in decisive positions thinking that they can save football or save one thing by doing just one thing. They don't understand that they need to be active on several fronts all at once, that they can't just not care about different markets, that there's a couple of billion people in Asia majority of human beings in this earth are from Africa and Asia. You might want to be there might be a good idea to be represented there. I don't know. I mean, it's just, rather than just keep doing things the way like it's 1953, and they don't get it. They don't care. And if they don't care because they're happy about where they are, then they have to answer for it too. I mean, we can criticize it all we want. We can say what we want, and we do. The difference, of course, being when we interview the CEOs and presidents in high places, we ask tough questions because we have an obligation and a duty to our listeners as journalists and as what we do, that to ask them tough questions, and because we want Italian football to do well, right? But when nobody seems to care, and the people in charge don't seem to care, and they seem happy, and they put out statements saying everything is great because we're growing in the United States, and the reason they grew in the United States is because they started doing things in Spanish, not English. They haven't grown a single inch in the English-speaking market. The only reason they've grown is because they realized that there's lots of Hispanic speakers in the United States, and they realized, if you do something in Spanish, people might actually watch it. You might actually reach the target audience that you want when you do things in their language, which is, you'd think that the lesson to be learned from that is to deliver messaging more directly to a specific market, maybe in Arabic, maybe in Mandarin and other, more like that in the world. But I guess not.
No,
I guess not. So I really don't know what to say. I think it's for me, it's become a situation where I just don't. It's become a little bit like the stadium situation for you. I just don't take it seriously. I know it's not going to get better, and I don't want to be like negative about it. I hope it gets better, but I don't think it's going to get better because
they haven't got a clue. And just to hammer that home, they're going on this ridiculous. This is the new big marketing strategy of these clowns that run in Serie A is influencers. It's all influencers now. I was told, speaking to someone at the stadium yesterday, that the VIP area of the Olimpico was absolutely ram-packed with these influencers. Most of them female, well, pretty much all of them female, but it's got nothing to do with sex. But they were just influencers, just doing stupid dances, TikTok dances, and that was it. These were the people that were taken, that were given access. They were there with their sponsors. They're given access to these influencers, many of them who have got nothing to do with football either, by the way. And what use is that to the league? How is that helping us to grow the league at all?
Look, I know you don't like Speed, but he's a football influencer. He's for kids. Like, if there's anyone you wanted to partner up with and work with, it's probably that Speed kid, because he's a football influencer. No, but seriously, if you want to do that, then you would want to bring him to these big games. You'd want to do stuff like that, right? Maybe not do childish whoever moves first is gay stuff. That's just ridiculous. But you know what I mean? Like, if you want to use that, but that can't be your sole marketing strategy. You don't sell more season tickets by doing that.
It's all about execution as well. When I see some of the influencer games that they play as well, I'm all for games. On our show, we have every interview we do, we have a game at the end. It's good. I'm not against doing games. I'm not saying we have to be 1890 style interviews where everything is serious. I know that a bit of fun is good, and we do that. Yeah. We try and bring both sides. But when I see some of the influencer games that they play, like these ridiculous games, like doing a clap, greeting clap. What do you call that? Where you go like that? Who can make the best sound when you greet someone? And I'm just like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, no offense, people like, I don't know.
No, but it's like I look at La Liga, and I look at the Premier League, and I look how they market themselves, and I look at how they carry themselves, and how they work on growing their brand at every level. The problem is that the Serie A doesn't do that. It just does one thing at a time. You have to have something in place to grow everywhere at the same time and do many things simultaneously and independently of one another. And they don't do that. And they're not going to grow.
It's also the execution of whatever you do as well. That's also the key, because you can have a good idea, but if you execute it terribly, if you could have a good idea of fighting racism, but then you paint 3 monkeys on your anti-racism campaign, or you can have an anti-gypsy campaign, and
don't call me gypsy.
So I mean,
I got to say that the monkey thing, it wasn't just 3 monkeys; it was 20 monkeys, because it was coloured in every club's colours in the Serie A. That thing went so viral that it reached my mum's WhatsApp friends and groups. Okay, she's not into football or sports at all. She actually hates it, mainly because of me growing up, me yelling and screaming and shouting.
Don't blame her, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't blame her either, to be honest. But she sent me that. I remember it vividly that day. She's like, "Have they lost their effing minds in Italy?" Is what she sent me. She sent that over to me and said, "Have they lost their fucking mind?"
The answer to that is yes, they have. The answer is yes.
She couldn't believe it.
Let's
She's
move
like,
on.
What is that? Like, why? And I was like, well, actually, the artist in question, and I like that artist. I think, his thing is putting monkeys in human situations. That's like his entire thing about how we're all apes and we descend from apes. And he's actually a really good artist. I like his work, but his art is his art. The Serie A, that's marketing and thinking from the 1970s to do that. Like, it just felt so surreal.
Yeah, no, for sure. Listen, let's move on. We're gonna have to go through a little bit quicker through some of these games, because we've had a 40-minute conversation on that now. So Atalanta Bologna first. This was a big game in the top 4 race, and it's a big win for Atalanta, who were starting to, we said free fall, didn't we? Last week was the word we used. 3 defeats in a row. This was a must-win game for them, and they got the win. And it's crucial for them. It now puts them in a good position again now to finish in the top 4. It means they've opened up a little bit of breathing space in third again. They're 4 points above Bologna, who are in 5th, and they do have a decent run of games to end the season. Although they play Milan away next, they then have Lecce at home, Monza away, Roma at home, Genoa away, Parma at home. So I think now with this win, you can never know, because they've been so inconsistent in 2025. I don't want to say 100%, but I think that they're now in a really strong position to actually clinch that top 4. This was crucial. A crucial win for them.
Win, completely crucial win. And it was important to see Retegui score again and play well. It was important for them to be able to win in a solid way without, concentrated, without any crises, if you know what I mean. It was a hard fought win, but it was a solid win. They were back to being a structure. They were back to being structurally sound. The key players were making important contributions. I think Retegui got an assist as well.
Great assist.
Yeah, so it was important for them. It was very, very important. It was as if they kind of snapped out of whatever was bothering them. But I have to say, I'm a little bit surprised by Vincenzo Italiano's lineup choices in this game. I don't understand why he rotated as heavily as he did. I mean, I don't understand why Pobega, Fabian, and Di Silvestri started. I don't get that. I really don't.
Ferguson was missed, I think.
Yeah, but why did Emil Holm come on in the 71st minute? He's been really good when he's played, and I'm not exactly Emil Holm's biggest fan. But I
then they lost this game early on. Really, I think he said it himself that Atalanta came racing out of the blocks, really up for it, and they blew them away early. They were just faster to the ball. But also, they defended terribly. This was Italiano, Fiorentina defending those first 2 goals. I mean, where is the marking on both those crosses? The first cross comes in from Bellanova, and there's no one even close to him. And then the second terrible defending from Lukumi, who commits a foul first, which wasn't given. They played on. Should have been a foul. If the foul had been given, they wouldn't have scored the goal. They played it on. It was good advantage actually by the referee. Well played for playing the advantage there. And then he puts a cross into the box, and again, there's no defender within yards of Pasalic, and it's a brilliant finish from Pasalic. It's great finish from Pasalic. But yeah, I think Retegui absolutely. Retegui was back. I think Gasperini even said it was his best game of the year, 2025. This was very, very welcome return to form for Retegui. I thought his first goal, trademark, brilliant movement, puts it away. But the second goal was, again, we've been critical, I have recently, that his work outside the box has reverted a little bit to his Genoa form. And this was him, delivering outside the box. And it was a great cross, great strength against a very strong defender. And so Retegui was the man of the match, I think, no doubt about that.
Yeah. But it was good. Ederson, like I've said before,
Ederson was outstanding as well. I want to say when Ederson plays well, Atalanta play well.
Just on that Retegui point, I mean, this is his real breakout season in terms of taking the next step, and there is still margin of improvement, and I think that's good for him and for Italy, because when I'd rather a player have 2-3 seasons where they raise the level and keep improving rather than have that one perfect season and then crash. With Retegui, I think it's important for him that after you've had a difficult run of games, after you've raised the level, but then you're a little bit inconsistent, to be able to bounce back from that, to be able to bounce back and start delivering towards the business end of the season, that's mental growth. And mental growth stays with you. Form, that comes and goes, physical form, but mental growth is something that stays with you for the rest of your career. And if he can have that end of the season, that is huge mental growth, because he's going to be the capocannoniere. There's no doubt about that now. And if he can continue, maybe get to 25, 26, 27, and also get into top 4 for Atalanta and continue to end the season on a high, that will leave a really good taste in his mouth, in Atalanta's mouth, and it will kind of keep him more fired up going into next season, which is imperative for him and Italy with the World Cup qualifiers.
Absolutely, we need him to be firing straight. Well, from June actually.
No, but we need him and Moise Kean to be firing on.
For sure. One big negative though from this game, Kolasinac has ruptured his ACL. The third Atalanta player in a year to tear their ACL after Scalvini and Scamacca. Well, there's nothing else to say. The ACL epidemic rumbles on. We were very critical of it last week when we were previewing the Bayern Munich versus Inter game and saying how, Alphonso Davies has done his ACL and we're robbing that game of all the best players we want to, many of the best players we want to see, and how we're putting players at risk. On the week when Gianni Infantino's in America and meeting Trump and cozying up to all those politicians. I mean, what can you say? Another one. Yeah. And that's probably his Atalanta career over, because it will be. That's his Atalanta career. That's it. He's played his last game for Atalanta because his contract expires in the summer. They're not going to give him a new contract after an ACL. No chance. Not at his age.
Exactly young either. He's not exactly a teenager.
That's it. He's played his last game for Atalanta. It's a shame.
Maybe that's his last game at professional level.
Well, you'd hope not, but yeah, at his age, you do have to. I mean, he's a warrior. He's a beast, strong guy. I still remember that time when him and Mesut Ozil got attacked by a gang waving knives, and Ozil cried and ran away like a little girl, and Kolasinac didn't even flinch. He didn't even flinch to these guys that were, he's a tough. Like, you've got to be one of the toughest guys. I wouldn't write him back. I wouldn't write him off coming back. Put it that way.
Yeah, you don't wave a knife in front of a guy from the Balkans if you don't like you know what I mean. Like, you just don't.
Not one built like him.
Yeah, he's a proper Bosnian. Like, yeah, I remember that. It was very, very funny. Yeah.
Tough guy. Right, Juventus. Let's move on to Juventus. This was a great weekend for Juventus in the top four race. Every single team below them or around them, except Atalanta, who were above them, dropped points this season. Dropped points this weekend, except for Milan, who were too far away for it to matter. And Juventus put in an outstanding first half of this game. Was maybe the best half of the season, maybe from Juventus. I mean, everything was fantastic about it. Like physically, they were like a whirlwind. Like they were the intensity and the dynamism and some of the moves, the team moves that they put together. I mean, that goal that they scored, the second goal. I mean, that's one of the team goals of the season, probably in all of Serie A. You know, starts with a Locatelli line-breaking pass that cuts out three players. Then Thuram, he runs, he gives it gets it back, and it goes to Yildiz, then back to Thuram, then to Vlahovic, who lays it back to Yildiz, who, I mean, the interchange and the passing was brilliant. Juventus created chance after chance in that first half. They were 2-0 up, probably should have been 4 or 5. It was really, really good. Physically, you know, this wasn't the team that we saw under Motta. And we saw the kind of passing and team moves that we were supposed to get from Motta. So, yeah, very, very encouraging. I thought it was a really, really great team performance. The second half, not so good. And then it got a bit nervy at the end with the Baschirotto goal off a set piece, which continues to be Juventus's problems. They continue to concede off set pieces. And, you know, it's still a problem. But and it got a bit nervy at the end. But all in all, if you look at the performance as a whole, yes, it was Lecce. I thought it was a really, really, really good performance. And if they keep playing like this, they're going to get. I think they're going to get top 4.
Oh, yeah, I think so too. I think this is probably how it's going to end now. I think Atalanta, Juve. I mean, I feel more comfortable about Atalanta, of course, than I do about Juve. But I'm looking at Juve's run-in, and it doesn't exactly scare me. They have a very, very easy run-in, and I expect Juventus to be able to handle that. I just when we're talking about players earlier about Mateo Sule, and football needs players like Mateo Sule. Well, football needs players like Kenan Yildiz. And I've said this time and time again. Kenan Yildiz he puts a smile on my face when I watch him play football. Like he is just, it's beautiful when he plays football. It really is. He's such a classy player. He's such an elegant player. And as I said, as I've said about building, the future of Roma is Sule. Well, the future of Juve is Kenan Yildiz. They have to build around him. He is the player they need to build around in the attack. Doesn't matter if it's Colomwani or Vlahovic or whoever is next to them. The center of the project going forward has to be Kenan Yildiz. He was just another. It's players like that. People buy tickets to see players like that play. It's very simple.
Absolutely. I mean, when you see Yildiz play like he did here, you could see why many expect him to go right to the very top, and why some have even said maybe potential Ballon d'Or winner in the future. We don't know if he'll reach those levels, but he has got that magic, that dribbling, that balance to go right or to left. And
Turkish Zidane. I mean, he's big. He's a big guy. But he's such a little ballerina. He's got these like ballerina feet, and he like the elegance. Turkish Zidane. It's the closest thing Turkey's ever come to producing.
I mean, he's called the Turkish Del Piero. That is his nickname. That is his idol, isn't it? I mean, he loves it. He even celebrates like Del Piero with his tongue, his tongue out. And he has those cutting in from the left and curling. But I mean, listen, I think we've seen under Tudor that he's gone into this 3-4-2-1 formation. That this playing in this 2 behind the 1. As a kind of a number 10, sort of, it seems to be his best role. I mean, whether that's down to formation or whether that's down to the freedom given by the manager, whether, because under Motta, he was playing on the left wing, very, very hogging the touchline, isolated, and it was easy to get doubled up on. It was a lot of the time when he got the ball, there was no one in front of him to pass to. All he could do was just cut back on and lay it back off. Whether it's the position, whether it's the fact that Tudor gives him more freedom, maybe it's a bit of both. I think it's probably a bit of both. He's probably that number 10 role he is more suited in. He can express himself more. He still does like to go to left. He still is able to go to the left. There was one amazing bit of skill when he set up a Vega chance. He's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Big career ahead of him. Just needs to, bring that consistency, which we haven't had this season. But you expect that at his age. He's 19 years old. You don't get consistency at 19. You get ups and downs. Juventus, like you said, have to stick with him. But he wasn't the only positive. I thought Koopmeiner's a little bit better in his scores. I still don't think he was amazing. I saw some people going over the top. I didn't think he was amazing, but he was better and he scored. And Vlahovic, I have to give him praise. This was a decisive performance from Vlahovic. He got 2 assists. He was much better at combining with his teammates. He got, the layoff for Yildiz's goal, even though it looks very, very simple. And it wasn't the hardest thing in the world to do, but it's the kind of thing that Vlahovic has been messing up all season. So that is a step forward. His finishing wasn't good though. He had one shot in this that he put over, and he had a couple of other chances where he didn't really get his shot away properly. So not so good from the finishing side of things, but in terms of the play in the foil and combining with his teammates, better, much better from Vlahovic. So again, have to try and take that on. And then the other positives, Thuram and Locatelli. I thought Locatelli was outstanding actually in this game. Locatelli has been really good under Tudor so far, getting forward more, having more shots. He scored that great goal, of course, against Roma, but in this game, I think he had 2 shots in this game. So Tudor is he's making Juventus more direct, more vertical, get the ball forward more, no slow. It's just get the ball forward quickly. It doesn't mean you're playing long ball. It just means go forward. And I think that's benefits in Juventus.
I think Igor Tudor is very underrated as a coach. And I think that Igor Tudor I think he's shown that he can handle difficult situations. Of course, having played at Juve, he was also Pirlo's assistant. I really think that maybe they should consider giving him the job permanently, because they've already gone down the route of bringing in the sexy, cool name. Well, sometimes, think about this, because, okay, Antonio Conte, he's unbelievable what he's doing with Napoli, but it's still reheated minestrone, isn't it, to bring him back to Juve? You're still risking it, and it's still Conte. He's a volatile character. Do you really need that kind of volatility? You remember he was at the most well-run Juve ever, calm, and he still managed to turn the place into a shithouse fire before he left. This Juve is not that stable. Are you really sure you want to bring Antonio Conte into this? Do you know what I mean? Just from a character point of view. And if you want to build long-term, and if you want to continue, you look at Tudor, you see him unlocking Vlahovic, you see him unlocking Yildiz, you see him getting the best out of Koopmeiners, you see Locatelli taking steps forward. I'm not, I really think they should think long and hard about it.
I would add Nico Gonzalez to that as well, who I think even in the wing-back role as Baggio
looking better.
Pretty well. Yeah, he's been much better. I think should Tudor get the job permanently, I think that there's a long way to go. He's only played 3 matches. There's 6 matches to go. At the end of the day, he needs to, first of all, get top 4. If he doesn't finish in the top 4, there's no chance of him getting the job permanently. Then he also needs to probably impress over the remaining 6 games. If they perform like they have in the last 2 games against Roma and Lecce, they keep playing like that. That gives him a chance. If, like you just said, he gets the best out of these players who are underperforming, absolutely, that's another string to his bow as well. And then I guess then we see who the other options are that are available. If you're not got somebody that's a guarantee, or there's doubts about, or is maybe a bit unproven, like Motta was at the top level, unproven at the top level, they'll probably think twice before doing that, appointing a Motta again because of that. Then why not? He understands the club. He played there for over a decade. Sometimes in understanding the environment, a bit like Ranieri at Roma, sometimes that goes a long way. So yeah, I mean, I'm not ruling it out at this stage, but I think it's still too early to give a definitive answer on that.
Oh, definitive answer, definitely too early. But I do think, like I said, they should think long and hard about this before going after another sexy name. Because Igor Tudor, for all the reasons like we outlined, if he gets top four, if the players seem to like him, if it seems to work, and all the signings are improving, and then you've got Bremer coming back, playing a back three, I don't think that should be discounted. Bremer in a back three, in the center of a back three, is simply outstanding. He was world class at Torino there. This also allows Juve to play with a higher defensive line because Bremer is quick. Now, I understand that after an ACL, you use a yard of pace, but it's not like he's turning in. I don't expect him to lose like 3 seconds on his pace,
no.
right?
And he's a defender. It's easier for defenders to centre backs come back from ACLs than it
is
for
you have Bremer. He plays a back three. Nico Gonzalez is looking good as a wing back. Even Kenan Yildiz is thriving. Even Vlahovic is doing well. Okay, you're not going to extend Vlahovic's contract, but you could maybe have one last season with him, and I think it's almost a certain that he's going to stay at Juve for one more season because he's not going to get that kind of money anywhere else. Unless Juve agree to sell him and pay part of his wages after selling him, which makes the whole damn thing pointless, I just don't see him leaving in the summer.
Yeah. Okay, listen, let's move on, Nima. Milan, the Groundhog Day curse is broken at Milan, and they decide to actually start playing well from the start of the game, and not when they are 2-0 down. I thought that this was a really good performance from Milan, that they changed formation to a 3-4-3. We've said how Conceição has tried everything desperately this season to try and find the solution somehow. He tried pretty much every single player and every single way of playing. It hasn't worked. He's tried another system, 3-4-3, and it did work. And I think that they've got to keep going with this system now. Tomori, Gabbia, and Pavlovic at centre back. But where it really worked was Leao and Theo Hernandez. Theo is the left midfielder, let's say, left wing back / left midfielder, and then Rafael Leao as the left winger in a 3-man attack. I thought both of those two were outstanding, and Rafael Leao got a great goal.
It was beautiful,
and
absolutely
fantastic
beautiful
goal, and an assist for Reinders for the 4th goal. He looked happy. He was laughing on the bench when he came off. He said after the game that he loved the new formation, that he felt freer, that he felt more comfortable. And I would add the same to Theo Hernandez as well, because playing as a wing back doesn't have those same responsibilities of defending in a 4, where you've got to hold your defensive unit like the line of that back 4, which he really struggles at. He gets caught out of position. He doesn't hold the line. He gets caught up the pitch. You don't have those same responsibilities. Yes, you still have to defend, but he's got the engine to get up and down. And I thought he was devastating in this game. A great run, and they shot into the roof of the net. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Milan won the Scudetto that year because of Theo and Leao getting the best out of them, Giroud to a lesser extent. If you can find a formation to get these two working, then that's half the job, isn't it?
Well, it's not just that. I also really like that. I like Pulisic. I think they managed to get the best out of Pulisic and Leao and Theo. I thought Reinders was really good. I think this is, and I thought Pavlovic was great too, defensively, not just for the goal he scored. And he does play for Serbia in a back 3 to the left. So, look, 3-4-3 or 3-5-2 or 3-4-2-1, however you want to call it, I think this could be the future for Milan. And the question is, if Conceição manages to play like I know it's not his preferred formation, but if he's managed to get this working, because it's not a typical 3-4-3. If you look at it, Milan were actually kind of a counter-attacking in this game. They won the ball in the right places. They were able to exploit the space, especially in the second half, by winning the ball in the right places. Fofana was excellent, I thought. And Jimenez did well too. Okay, this was Udinese. It wasn't, Real Madrid. But it looked balanced. It looked cohesive. It looked good in both phases, and they looked like they enjoyed themselves in this formation. And I feel that with the way that Conceição likes to kind of counter-attack more than dominate, it went according to plan perfectly. So there's a balance here. There's a structure issue here that needs to be taken into account. And okay, what do you do in the summer? Theo Hernandez, do you sell him? Do you keep him? Do you cash in now? These are all questions that are still there. But what I'm saying is, this could be the solution. I think this 3-4-3 with this team of players, with this group of players, without having to overhaul the squad too much, is maybe the way to go forward. Now, the question is, who's going to be the coach to do it? Do you continue with Conceição? My perspective on this is this. If Conceição gets them to the final of the Coppa Italia, if they win the Coppa Italia, despite this absolute cluster F shit show of a season, he will have won them 2 trophies. That's important for Milan. Milan is a club with a winning DNA, and if during a shit season you still end it with 2 trophies, albeit minor, I think you should continue with him.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Also have to see how they perform in the league, and also the fact that they're going to be bringing in a new sporting director. They're going to be changing the system up above.
Well, maybe that's a little bit.
It makes it unlikely if we're talking on what's going to happen.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is maybe don't change too much. Is what I'm saying. Maybe there is something here.
I want to ask you one question. Here, right? So Rafael Leao, with that assist, now has 8 assists for the season. There's no player in Serie A that has more assists than Rafael Leao. So this has come during a season which, if you listen to everybody, will say Rafael Leao's been basically a disaster this season, as have Milan. Are we a little bit overcritical and harsh on Leao when we judge his performances and judge his season, when you consider that he's still the top assist man in Serie A this season, the joint top assist man in Serie A?
I think the issue with Rafael Leao is that when he's good, he is so damn good that we expect that kind of level of consistency from him. We don't see that. And when we don't see that, when he's not playing at that level for 6 to 8 games, then we look at how he plays and we criticize that, which is part and parcel of the game. But the thing is, for me, my thing with Leao is that I think as I've said a million times, and I will say it going to my grave, I think his raw talent is Ballon d'Or. The talent that guy possesses is world class. It is Ballon d'Or winning without a doubt. The problem, or is it a problem, is I don't think that in order to perform week in, week out at that high level, you need to be mentally prepared to sacrifice everything in a way that maybe Rafael Leao isn't. He's a surfer guy. You know what I mean? Like that's more his style. Maybe he needs to be happier like that, playing like that. That's just we're all different. We can't demand that from everyone. But when overall, this has been a bad season for Milan. They've been very poor. It's been a mess on and off the pitch. They've changed coaches, 3 coaches in less than a year. That is not good. And as one of the leaders of this Milan, which he is the number 10. He is the highest paid player. He's supposed to lead this Milan. When the results don't turn, when they don't arrive, the leaders of a club, the leaders of a team will be criticized. And that includes Mignon, Theo, and Leao. I think a little bit, the 3 of them are kind of, there's a lot of similarities in between them, that when they're good, they are absolute world class. But when they're not good, when they're having bad games, they make horrible, awful mistakes that are just so glaring in your face that you wonder what the hell's going on. It's the inconsistency issue. Now, the question for Milan is, do you find another coach that can, or do you have the coach in-house that can balance this? Or do you count your losses and say, we need players, leading players, starting players, starring players that are more consistent, that maybe don't have those highs, but they also don't have these lows, that the overall level is higher if you take the average out. I don't know what the situation, what the result. I think it's the same discussion we had about Mike Mignon. And I think that's very, very true of Rafael Leao as well. That's how I read the situation.
Yeah.
I don't think
best wishes to Mike Mignon after that sickening collision, which was horrible. But thankfully, everything's going to be.
I don't know what the solution is to that. I really don't know. But I do think that Rafael Leao, when at his best, is a legendary player. Is a fantastic player. He's a beautiful.
Listen, the ability's there. I think Conceição's even said that himself. But yeah, unfortunately, there isn't the consistency. There are certain scenarios in a game that he flourishes in, i.e., on the counter attack in open games like we saw against Real Madrid when they give you the space. But then there are also scenarios where he struggles when the games are closed, when you're playing against deep defenses. And when that happens, he struggles. That's why in home matches he struggles. Sometimes struggled a lot more than he has in away matches. And also, he's mentally, a little bit fragile, and we've seen that. He doesn't like getting criticised. He takes it to heart, and it affects his performance, and that's not good. So, yeah, I don't think we're being too harsh, because when you see the ability that player has, then you're disappointed that he doesn't do more.
The ability is just stunning. I mean, there are few things in football right now that I love as much to watch. When he does that, when he goes on the lovely drop of the shoulder down the left and just sprints past, it's stunning to watch.
Yeah,
he's unstoppable.
For sure. Right, Fiorentina Parma. Not much to say about this. 0-0. Disappointing from Fiorentina, especially after they rested so many of their players in the Conference League. You thought they would have been really on this, but they didn't. Yeah, they didn't play well. They had a big chance from Moise Kean, which he put wide. Other than that, not really that much. In fact, De Gea made a couple of big saves. So Fiorentina's good run ends. They're still on a good little unbeaten run, but that was a big blow for top four. I think that's for their top four now.
Agreed.
6 points off Juventus in fourth, 8 off Fiorentina. So now they just need to focus on getting a European place and also just trying to go as far as they can in the Conference League. They should go through now to the semis, where they'll play Real Betis, which is going to be a very, very tough game. So yeah, lots to play for still, but not the top four. I'll read through the rest of the weekend results. Venezia 1, Monza 0. So that Venezia keep their relegation survival hopes alive with that. Hellas 0, Genoa 0, and Como 1, Torino 0. And then Napoli play against Empoli on Monday, recording this before that. And Napoli have to win to keep themselves in the title race, because Inter beats Cagliari 3-1 at San Siro. A little bit of rotation from Simone Inzaghi ahead of the Bayern game. But I think that the big headline maker in this game is probably Marko Arnautovic, Nima, because he scores again and he gets an assist. And he's in really, really, really good form right now. He's scored in Inter's last 5 home games in Serie A and the Coppa Italia. He scored in all of them, all 5 of them, including some really big goals. If you take the Fiorentina goal, the Monza goal, even that great goal against Lazio in the Coppa. I mean, yeah, he's really stepped up now, hasn't he, Arnautovic?
Yes, he really, really, really has. I spoke to their Standard, the Austrian, the biggest Austrian daily broadsheet, and they asked me about Arnautovic because they were a little bit surprised. Like, well, what's happening with Arnautovic? What's going on? Like, what's happening? We're not used to this. And I'm like, well, everyone matures at some point in their lives. And Marko Arnautovic has been given a fantastic golden second chance by returning to Inter after leaving Inter as a treble winner and spending the next decade in mediocrity because of not being able to express himself in the best way. Well, now he's been given a golden chance. He's a veteran. He's a seasoned veteran. He's come to Inter and he understands his role. He understands his position in the team. He's very, very popular in the dressing room. Everybody likes him. He's become a little bit like a mascot at Inter. And now he's taking care of himself in a way, I think, physically and mentally, where when called upon, he delivers. And the goal he scored was great. But more than that, the assist for Lautaro Martinez was just out of this world. It was absolutely stunning. And it kind of shows why he was being, touted as this new Austrian Ibrahimovic when he came through as a 17, 18, 19-year-old. He does have certain characteristics that are unbelievable. He never managed to fully exploit his potential. But the fact that he is now at Inter, that they are in another title race, they are in the Coppa Italia, they are in the Champions League quarterfinal. He sees this as winning a golden ticket coming to Inter, and he wants to make the most of that. And what's great is that Inter really need him. Inter need him now. The way that Inter are decimated injury-wise, they need Arnautovic and the bench players and the rotation players to be this good. They
need a third striker. Yeah, they need a third striker.
Not just a third striker. They need Carlos Augusto to be this good. They need Matteo Darmian to be this stable. They need Stefan De Vrij to be this good. They need Marko Arnautovic to be this decisive in the final third. And that's what's happened.
Yeah. For sure, yeah, great week for Lautaro, scoring against Bayern, scoring against Cagliari. But what I want to speak to you about though is Yann Sommer. We spoke about the great form he was in last week, and he made a great save from Piccoli at 1-0 again in this game. I don't want to speak about Sommer. I want to speak about Andre Onana, because Yann Sommer come in to replace Onana after the Champions League final defeat to Man City when he went to Manchester United. It was all seen as this big downgrade, and it hasn't proven to be a downgrade. Sommer's been, first season fantastic, second season a little bit of a dip, but he's really hit form. He's in fantastic form now when it really matters now. And I mean, you must have seen, I think everybody's seen the horrific mistakes that Onana made on last Thursday in the Europa League against Lyon, 2 of them that single-handedly cost United the victory. And he was then dropped for the defeat to Newcastle. Didn't really help. They got hammered 4-1. But everybody expects now that he's going to be sold at the end of the season. So can you just tell everyone about this Inter curse, this Inter transfer curse that has affected Onana, Lukaku? Like, just go through it and explain it to everyone.
Well, it's basically like Beppe Marotta cashing in whenever he sells players for lots of money. Those players then go on and flop miserably. Onana came in on a free transfer after a doping suspension, was eased in by Simone Inzaghi, then became the first choice goalkeeper. They went to the Champions League final. Because of how bloody good he is with the ball at his feet, he's outstanding technically. Guardiola publicly stated that we're not going to press Inter as high up because with Onana there, they beat our press and we become vulnerable. So he had to adapt because of Onana. And then Inter go on and sell him, all capital gains to Man United, 50, 60 million. Lukaku for 100 million or 100 million euros. Skriniar wanted lots of money and that whole situation, and he goes to PSG on a free transfer on a huge wages, completely flops. I mean, it's become this thing like a meme now that Marotta has like this evil witch doctor.
And Romelu Lukaku before, 115 million Romelu Lukaku.
Euros, 150 million euros.
115 million euros to Chelsea, and it's a total disaster. Last one season there. does an interview midway through the season where he basically slags off the whole club, and the manager says he never wanted to leave Inter, pisses off the entire fan base, then returns to Inter a year later after being sold for 115 to go on loan, and then they've only just managed to sell him just last summer. After all that, they've finally sold him to Napoli for a massive loss, huge record-breaking losses. I mean, it's everyone, isn't it? Pretty much, you don't buy from Inter.
No, it's like no. You pay him like but you see, it's tongue in cheek Inter curse, because it just goes to show how well Marotta has this Inter running, in the sense that the technical staff, Inzaghi, and the directors of the club in charge of the technical stuff, the Auxilios, Bacin, and Marotta, they're all on such a good like wavelength that when they sign players, Mkhitaryan on a free transfer, been outstanding because he works in the system. Onana, 1 season, worked fantastically in the system. When they had Conte, when they brought in Barella and Lukaku, they worked fantastically in the system, especially Lukaku. Barella was more a patrimonio, as Marotta would call it, and Bastoni as well. But this is what they're so good at, this player trading thing of understanding. Acerbi came in, fantastic signing, knew exactly what he was going to do in work in the Inzaghi system. This just goes to show, excuse me, this just goes to show that Marotta knows when to sign, when to sell, when, might not be the sexiest names that the fans don't like, but the results always speak louder than all the criticism, and the results are there. And he's a master at that. And it's not just him, it's the entire team. The fact that they're all on the same wavelength, they know what kind of profiles they're looking for and for what roles. And also the character of the players have to work in the group. They have to suit the players. They have to suit the group in question. That's what they're so good at. And so when he doesn't extend Skriniar's contract, well, he's been injured. He was very injured. He had an operation, and then he goes off and he's in Turkey now. Luis Enrique could not be more explicit in saying he wanted to get rid of him at all costs. Onana now, a complete disaster. Lukaku, has been awful since he's never reached the levels before, since levels after Inter sold him for that kind of money. Like, this is what he does really well. And you look at, it doesn't mean that he doesn't make mistakes. You look at Aslan, he's been a dud. You look at Fratesi, it's been kind of hit and miss. But given he also knows how to use those to get bargaining chips to get to better positions, which I'm sure he will do. I mean, I look at Fratesi and I see either a straight swap with Raspadori or Roma, perhaps with Pellegrini. And then people go, oh, Pellegrini.
Yeah, they've still got value. They've still got value, yeah.
But it's not just that. And then people say, oh, but Pellegrini, he's so crap at Roma and this and that. Yes, but if they bring in Pellegrini, it's because they see use for him in this Inter, in the Inzaghi system. So you always have to remember that they look at these things when they're not under pressure. Even Arnautovic has paid off now. You know what I mean? Like with the bonus of time.
Let's move on. Let's move on though from this to preview the Bayern game, the second leg. So Inter 2-1 up from the first leg in Munich. The second leg of this quarterfinal is on Wednesday at, and I'm going to say this just to make Nima laugh, 2100 CET kickoff at San Siro. Again, as was the case last week, Bayern have a massive injury crisis going in. No Musiala, Alphonso Davies, Upamecano, Hiroki Ito, Buchanan, Pavlovic, they're all out. Neuer,
Pavlovic could be back. Pavlovic could be back. The latest I saw. Yeah.
Difficult though, because he had the Epstein-Barr virus. Very difficult one to come back from, knowing kind of what your state is like. Neuer, I believe, is still going to be out, isn't he, Manuel Neuer?
It's touch and go, but Kingsley Coman is back.
Kingsley Coman's back. He played at the weekend, and then of course Kim Min-jae is playing with painkillers with an Achilles injury. So, yeah, Bayern are not in particularly good shape. Inter Inter are without Zielinski, Taremi, but Aslani is back from suspension. Dumfries is still out though, right?
Yeah, he's out.
Dumfries is still out. So those are the players that are missing. If we look at the probable 11s, I mean, Inter's is pretty easy to predict. I think there's one position. So there's Sommer, then in defence, Pavard, Acerbi, Bastoni, Darmian as right wing back, Barella, Çalhanoğlu, and Mkhitaryan. And then you're going to have Augusto or Di Marco, and I want to ask you about that in a minute. And then Lautaro and Thuram up front. And then Bayern, you're looking at Udbig or Neuer if he somehow recovers. Then defence, we're probably looking at Lima, Eric Dyer, Kim, then Stanisic or Guerrero at left back, and then Kimmich and Goretzka in centre mid, and then Olise, Sane on the wings, Kane up front, and then in the number 10, Muller or Guerrero is playing in that position, the Musiala position. The big question I want to ask you, Nima, on Inter, I think there's only one starting shirt up for grabs, Augusto or Di Marco. First of all, who do you think will play? And then secondly, who would you play?
I'm scared that Inzaghi is going to play Di Marco, and because I think he wants to get Di Marco up and running, and Di Marco's a senior player at this Inter, and his left foot and on counters and the diagonal balls to help break the press gives him a lot. And I understand that in going forward, set pieces, again, forcing your opposition to shift, move laterally with his left fantastic cross balls and diagonal balls, it creates problems for the opposition. The issue, so I think he's going to start, and I think the fact that he played as much as he did against Cagliari was a clear signal that he's going to start. However, I would start Carlos Augusto for the simple fact of what you saw away to Bayern. Defensively outstanding, did not give Olise, did not give Kimmich any time. Together with Bastoni, they were fantastic defensively. Di Marco, it doesn't close down players. He doesn't do that because he's scared. He knows he's going to get beat because he's a bit slow on the turn, and he's not very quick at reacting. So I worry, and he stands off players. And if you give Kimmich time on the right, his right, Inter's left, to pinpoint passes into the box with Kane, Müller, or Goretzka, Kingsley Coman running in from the box, they're going to score. They're going to harm you, and you only have one goal lead. So I would rather play Carlos Augusto this game. I would rather play him for the 90 minutes.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? It's a really, really difficult one. Because it worked. Tactically, it worked. But then you're the home team. You're going to be expected to have more of the ball, to take the game to the opposition. Are you better doing that with Di Marco or with Augusto? It's a really tough one. I would want to also know before making that decision, what is the physical shape of Di Marco? He hasn't been for a while in optimal physical shape. I would want to make that decision. I would want to see kind of like just what is his fitness like and going into the game. And then also, how do you intend to approach the game? Are you going to have the same strategy as in the first leg of sitting back and counter-attacking, in which case you probably are better with Augusto because he's going to have more defending to do? Or are you going to try and take the game more to Bayern, in which case then you're better off with Di Marco because he can create the chances. So
I think it would be suicide if Simone Inzaghi thought that he was going to dominate possession from minute one against Bayern Munich, because that's just not how Bayern play. Like, Bayern will just destroy you. You can't dominate them like that. You have to approach this game with the same intelligence that Inter did and management, in-game management, that they did away at the Allianz, where they were perfect. I mean, I thought the game plan was outstanding in that game.
Bayern play with a very high line, high line. And when your two centre-backs are Kim Min-jae carrying an injury and Eric Dyer, one of the slowest defenders on the face of the planet, then you're going to get chances. And I mean, I saw the Bayern Dortmund game, and Bayern created a lot of chances in that game, a hell of a lot of chances, but they also conceded such bad goals and such bad chances. They can't defend. So, you know, if we're moving on to predictions in this game, Nima, I don't see how Inter don't score in this game. But at the same time, I think Bayern will create chances because they've got too much quality in attack. So I'm going to go draw. I'm going to say 1-1 draw in this game. I think it's going to be tight, and I don't think Inter will take it easy and think they're through, because they're not through. This is, you know, if you watch that first game, you know, there's more than enough still in this Bayern team, even with all the absentees, to still go through in this tie. So I think this is still going to be a very, very difficult game for Inter. But I think a draw. I think they'll just do it.
I think a draw is where you're at, given that Inter have never beaten Bayern Munich at the San Siro. They just never have done that. And it's, you know, this is far from over, and Inter know it's far from over. Yes, they have that slight advantage of a goal, but there are no away goals anymore. And so Inter know that they have to 90 minutes of suffering. And he's going to field his strongest lineup. I just feel that the game plan and the formation on last Tuesday was perfect. And so I would go with the same. I would continue with the same. Maybe minor tweaks, but overall, that was the game plan to handle Bayern Munich and not defend too deep, because that's what happened in the second half. I didn't like 20 minutes in the second half where I thought Inter, after coming out well, starting the second half well, for 20 minutes were way too deep because they ran out of gas, which is normal. But I want Inter to manage the game and their energy levels better in this game. And I need Barella, Mkhitaryan, and Çalhanoğlu to have a fantastic game again. I need Lautaro. The big players need to turn up, the Bastonis, the Lautaros, the Barellas. Barella was, the more I look at that game, the more I look at the overall performance of Barella in that first leg, it's one of the best performances I've seen an Inter midfielder give in the Champions League ever. He was unplayable, absolutely unplayable, and he needs to be that good again. Like, this is the part of the season where they need to step up. And I you know, if Barella plays like that, because he just ran circles around the Goretzka and Kimmich and the rest of them, and they couldn't get anywhere near him. And if he does that, then a lot is won. So, you know, it's going to be tight. I think a draw as well. I think 1-1 is where it's going to end, probably. Yeah.
Well, let's hope so. We need Inter to stay in, because Lazio, can they turn it around, Lazio, against Bodo Glimt? It's going to be tough, isn't it?
It's going to be very tough.
You've seen more than me at Bodo Glimt. I was very impressed with them. They come across, I know the artificial pitch is a different sport, like you said in your post-match. It's a completely different sport, playing on AstroTurf. It shouldn't be allowed in football in 2025 to play on AstroTurf. It's ridiculous. They come across as a team that are very, very well drilled, that know each other very well, you know, that understand each other's movements so well. Yeah, and they have some dangerous players. You know, Helga, former Milan player, Hall, the centre forward. They look decent. They impressed me a lot. And yeah, so I'm not giving up. But what do you think? Can they turn it around?
I think it's going to be very difficult. They have to have a perfect game, and they have to come out guns blazing. The thing about Bodo Glimt is not just do they really know each other really well, they're a solid counter-attacking side too. And it's going to be tricky for Lazio. I think what Lazio need to hope for is again, game management. You would ideally want to score your first goal within the opening 10 minutes, and then maybe get equal the tie just before half time, so that it's all square with 45 minutes left to play. After that, Bodo Glimt have to push up, and I think Lazio then have the ability, the firepower, the know-how, and the experience to be able to absorb and hurt them back and score the third one. I think they need to manage this game perfectly.
Yeah, they need an early goal
room.
for sure.
Yeah, there's no room. There's no margin of error. There's no margin
for
of
sure.
error.
For sure. And Fiorentina should be okay. But hopefully they take it a little bit more seriously than they did in the first leg, where they rested most of their players and didn't play well. And actually, were, I would say, very fortunate to have won that game based on the performance. Right, let's finish off with Baggio, Premface, and Serie AS of the week. So Baggio, I'm going for Thomas Frank, the Brentford head coach. So at training last week on Thursday, they had a special day at the club where they asked you to wear your favourite shirt or retro shirt, and he turns up wearing the iconic Roberto Baggio Italy shirt from the 1994 World Cup with Baggio on the back of the shirt as well, which was awesome, absolutely awesome. I love that. I love that. So where's Nima going?
Alarm went off here.
Oh, right. I guess this is a good moment to see what shirt are you wearing today, Nima?
Yeah, I'm wearing the Ascoli shirt that we were given to, both of us were given actually, from our good friend Matt Rizzetta at North Six Group. They obviously, I don't know if they still are co-owners of Ascoli. They're at Campobasso now, of course. Yeah, they're at Campobasso now, but they were also co-owners of Ascoli. And Ascoli, I'm wearing this because Ascoli are very close to securing Serie C football next season. They've had a little bit of a struggle. They lost on the weekend, and so I'm kind of wearing this as a good luck wish for them to stay in the Serie C and hopefully get up to Serie B.
Nice.
So
nice.
you know, to the Ascoli. Yeah, I don't know if North Six are still co-owners of Ascoli, but and also wish them, Mark Consuelos and Matt Rizzetta and Nicky and everyone else at North Six, good luck for Ascoli, but also for Campobasso, who've had a really good season in the Serie C, all things considered.
They started really well. Then they had a bit of a dip, but they've been pretty solid. So hopefully next season they can
push forward.
They can make a further push. Yeah, it's
because
you're never going to get promoted first season in Serie C.
No. The difference between Serie D, the difference between Serie D and Serie C is so huge. So this is kind of an homage to North Six and their various football projects.
For sure.
They're so good at running. What are you wearing?
Right, let me see if you can guess the year on this.
Is it Boca Juniors?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it Riquelme?
I would turn around, but I don't want everything to go flying here. Can you see?
Is it Riquelme or Maradona?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
What does it say?
Quilmes.
Oh, does it not have the name on it? No.
No. I just see number 10. Oh, there it is. It's Maradona. Yeah, it's number 10 Maradona at the bottom there.
Right. Okay. I've got my headphones like underneath my shirt, so I don't want everything to go.
Why have you got them underneath your shirt?
Because it looks stupid, just like coming down. But anyway, yeah, this is the 1995 Boca Juniors Centennial shirt, 100th anniversary of Boca Juniors. Yeah. Right. And Sassuolo as well, promoted to Serie A, so well done to them.
The tormentors of Inter Milan and Juve are back in the Serie A. The bogey team, the bogey team to end all bogey teams.
Sassuolo, and Milan as well. Berardi always
that's what I'm saying. Milan, Inter, and Juve's tormentors are back in the Serie A. Berardi always turns up against all of them, except for Juve. But they still managed to. The season they went down, I think they took 6 points against Juve. Against Allegri's Juve.
Yeah, it took about a decade before Berardi played against Juve, and then when he did, he was their nemesis as well. Yeah. Right, Premface of the week. Carmen, you have to take this away because you sent this to me, and this is.
I don't, this is like I don't usually like to talk about these football influencers and these guys because I think it's just nonsense. But this is like. What's his, Mark Goldbridge, or because his real name is Brent Di Cesare, but he's apparently chosen this artist named Mark Goldbridge for reasons that I don't even want to know. But I don't call him that. I call him Brain Goldfish because that's the level of intellect on display here. It's goldfish brain size. He went on this. He had this thing where he had some other galaxy brain on, and they were talking about PSG, and he says PSG wouldn't make it in the top 4 of the EPL because they couldn't handle the intensity of a Fulham away. Fulham away. PSG can't handle the intensity of Fulham away. After they ran circles around Liverpool, who are going to be the champions of England this season. It's the
new Messi couldn't do it on a cold Tuesday night at Stoke, isn't it?
It's just it doesn't stop. And it's like, for me, it's like that. How can you just keep repeating the same stupid talking point over and over and over again? And it's like, it doesn't make any sense. Why would PSG not make it to the top 4 of the EPL? Like, what are you basing this on? This notion that the Premier League pace and power and intensity, like as if it's a different sport, and the rest of them are like snails and slugs walking around. Like, what are you talking? Have you watched the Ligue 1? It's a very physical league. It's a very intense league. It's not like they live in the 1980s and you live in 2025. Like, what are you talking about? It doesn't. There's no. And also, Luis Enrique is one of the most underrated coaches in all of Europe. His teams play fantastic football. His Spain side is one of the best international sides I've seen, even though they didn't win anything. Italy were lucky to go through against Spain in that semi-final in the Euros. Spain were better.
Yeah, I mean, so there's you don't need to go on a big explanation. I mean, this is just a hallmark of the Premface to say that a team from a foreign league wouldn't make it in the Premier League.
But the example, Carlo, Fulham away, as if Craven Cottage is like, I don't know, some sort of fortress, an impenetrable fortress that, you know, and you need to have an actual Trojan horse, like in the you know, to kind of, otherwise you can't get in.
It's a crumbling fortress. It's a very old stadium. Right. I've got one other one. Aston Villa fans smashing up Paris. I saw that the PSG ultras got the blame for it, as usual. All I saw on the video was before the PSG versus Aston Villa game is chairs flying everywhere. So you can tell me that was the PSG ultras. Well, I don't know about that, but it's always the chairs. Will somebody please think of the chairs?
Yeah, cheap furniture. I think Bardi, who was one of our patrons, he said he was the one who shared this and on Twitter, and it was like, you know, English football fans and cheap outdoor furniture. Like, just it's so funny. Yeah, and also we had one sent in. Craig Burley apparently was complimentary of Inter on ESPN FC, but the analysis was of someone who'd literally watched 2 games of Inter this season. He had no clue what he was talking about. And it's like, he was trying to take some sort of a victory lap about how he's been banging on about Inter when he's been doing nothing of the sorts, which I thought was absolutely hilarious.
Let's take that as a positive. It's nice to get some praise on Serie A for once. Serie ASS of the week, it has to be the new betting scandal in Serie A.
It's not really a new betting scandal, though.
No, it's not. It's just new.
So basically, the thing is, during the last investigation, when Fagioli and Tonali and these guys were, you know, convicted, what happened is they took all their devices, and they're still going through everything in there. And what they did find is that 12 Serie A players have all been active on that illegal site, an illegal online gambling and betting site. They haven't found that they've played on football, but they've played online poker on an illegal betting site. And so
they can't get banned from.
Well, actually, no. This is a criminal investigation. That's really important to remember. This is a criminal investigation, and the worst they can get is fines. However,
like Zaniolo last year.
Yeah. But now the FIGC has to open up their investigation and then we'll see what they do. I think we should remember that Fagioli and Tonali were banned for illegal betting, including on football matches. Here, this isn't anything new. Both of them have kind of admitted to everything. So I sincerely doubt that either of them will get more punishments for this, because they've kind of,
No, they can't. I understand they can't get punished again.
Yeah,
it's a double jeopardy kind of thing.
Well, no, it's not really, because this is a new investigation. But the thing is, I don't think they will be, because according to the investigators, they actually say that Tonali has been very forthcoming and been very cooperational. So I don't think that he'll get anything other maybe than a fine, because this is a new instance. This is about poker. This isn't about what it was then, because they found new things. But it's part of that.
But generally, you only get banned if you're betting on football. If you're betting on other sports, they're not going to get banned from Serie A or Italy national team like Tonali and Fagioli did. If it's betting on poker or horse racing or something like that.
Yeah.
But it does again bring up the discussion of what we've discussed on this pod and others have discussed on the pod, that betting is banned for footballers in an industry. In fact, let me read out your tweet, because it sums up my thoughts on the matter perfectly. So you tweeted after this came out, you said, "At what point will professional top-level European football address the giant pink elephant in the room style hypocrisy of taking money from betting, gambling companies to the tunes of billions with one hand, while suspending and banning players for gambling on the other?" That's exactly how I feel about the issue. I think it's ridiculous that we have these laws in place when you're shoving it in the faces with taking money from betting companies.
It doesn't make sense, especially when there's a social aspect of this as well, where lives have been ruined, suicides amongst young men for running up debt, unbelievable debt, levels of debt, for betting and gambling. It is a vice. So if we leave that aside and just go into the fact that you're taking money from these companies, but you're banning the people involved in the football to use that product for very, very good reason too. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a problem with the ban. I think it's, if you're a professional football player, you should not be able to bet on matches. It kind of opens the door to match fixing, right? But the hypocrisy still stands. Because if they take lots of money from alcohol companies, they don't ban players from having a beer every now and again. It doesn't have the same impact. This is directly impacts what they're doing, and they can't do it for very good reason. So therefore, why are you taking their money?
I understand why. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be sponsorship involving betting companies. I know that is an important lifeblood of football. That brings in important money. So I'm not saying we should ban that. I have no problem. I have no problem with footballers gambling as long as it's not on football. I have no problem. There shouldn't be a ban on them betting on poker, on betting on horse racing, on other sports. In fact, I don't even have a problem with them gambling on other leagues. I have no problems with Serie A players gambling on Serie A. There's no effect.
With the history of Italian,
if you want to talk about insider knowledge, they should ban us. They should ban us from betting.
No, I'm not talking about insider knowledge. I'm talking about how we've seen in Italian football before, especially from March, April onwards, from the Serie A to the Serie D with the mid-table teams. I don't want to, and then you all of a sudden have people raising lots of money to bet on certain games, and it opens up to match fixing. No,
that happens anyway. That happens anyway.
But footballers should not be allowed to gamble on.
I don't have a problem with it as long as it's not the same league or the same competition. I have no problem with it personally. I mean, that's up for debate. I do see the other side, but if you're gonna say, right, footballers are not allowed to bet on, say, Serie A footballers are not allowed to bet on Serie A because they're going to have some insider knowledge. They're probably going to have people they know that are playing in Serie A that will allow them to know what's going to happen.
The games, and you're going to have another.
But the same would be. But then they should be banning it for us as well. We have insider knowledge.
No, we don't have any way of impacting. Calling up some player there and saying we could if we wanted to, but it's not the same way as if these guys are all friends. They're all in the same WhatsApp groups, and they all talk. And you don't want to create that insight, not inciting.
But there's a lot of people in the football industry that do that. There are a lot of football journalists that do. We maybe to a lesser extent, but we still know people within clubs. There's people, there's executives, there's executives within football clubs. There's people that work within football clubs, whether they're physios or whether they're doctors or whether they're the tea lady, that they'll know stuff that's going on, and they're not. I mean, as far as I know, they're not.
I don't care about what they know. I'm talking about creating an incitement or creating a carrot to match fixing, especially, which is a huge problem the lower the league, because the players there make less money and will be enticed to fall for this temptation. I don't want to create.
I don't see how that creates a temptation in Serie A players on the Serie G.
No, we know that it does, because then they contact.
But they have no reason to bet on it.
We already have a problem with them that in lower leagues, where they go to them and say, 10,000 for a yellow card. Do you know what I mean? Like, this has been a huge problem, not just in Italy. This has not just been in Italy. This has been a huge problem in Swedish football. Massive problem in Swedish football at all levels of it. We have players in the top tier league, being suspended because they've been found out to take a yellow card or do stuff like that. Like, we have a big problem with this. We need more regulation on this. I don't think players should be allowed to gamble or bet on any football if they're professional footballers. If they want to bet on horse racing, tennis, ice hockey, I don't care about that. But if you're a professional footballer, you shouldn't be able to bet on football. It's that simple. I think, given the problems we have and I don't think that should just apply to football players. I think it should apply to coaches. It should apply to directors in the FAs, within the clubs. Everyone who works in professional football should not be allowed to bet on football. I think that's just clear as day with the match fixing issue, how much of a problem that is. But if they want to bet on poker and other things, that's another thing. That's a separate discussion. The issue here was that they bet on an illegal site. That's the problem, and that's also an issue. We need, that they need to that we need to deal with. But again, my issue with this is, if you're going to take billions of pounds a year from an industry that you then turn around and say, no, you can't. We're going to take the money, but you can't bet. It's a blatant hypocritical stance, and it's just.
Yeah, I agree. Final Serie A of the week is the Lega Serie A president Ezio Maria Simonelli, who's launching a new anti-piracy campaign with the slogan, "I wanted to buy a world-class centre-forward, but piracy stopped me." So there you have it, guys. The reason why Serie A has fallen so far, the reason why Serie A teams don't have world-class centre-forwards anymore, the reason why Lazio lost 2-0 to Bodo Glimt last week, is because of piracy. Has nothing to do with the way our league's being run, the ancient stadiums, that our TV rights executives can't sell life jackets on the Titanic, that we can't develop players, that our top clubs, some of our top clubs are building projects around the baseball movie. That it's nothing to do with our marketing team and our social media teams can't even speak English. That they hire influencers to do dance around, do TikTok dance videos at the Rome Derby, and naked chefs and gamers who do backflips. It's nothing to do with that. Italian football's problems are all down to piracy. That's the reason. That's why we don't have any world-class centre forwards anymore. It's because of piracy, Nima.
I don't even know what to say to this anymore. Like, they are just so clueless. And that sentence is the corniest damn sentence I've heard. I wanted to buy a world-class centre forward, but piracy stopped me. It's so corny. It's so it reminds me of an ad. Don't do drugs, kids. Just say no, from 1980s. Like, that's the level of corniness here. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you remember these like anti-drug campaigns from the late 80s, early 90s, how fucking corny they are. And
well, Maradona did one of them. Says it all. Yeah.
Just
Maradona did one in the Vatican next to the Pope. Say no to drugs campaign. The same day that he did a line of cocaine in the Pope's
bathroom,
private bathroom, as John Ludden famously told the story
on the show when we interviewed him in a book. Yeah. I mean, it's just. But the thing is, like, if you, I mean, I know I'm a bit crazy with stuff like that, but I love these corny, awkward, ridiculous ads from the 80s against, like, because I remember how, you know, I'm of that generation that I remember that there was outrage from parent teachers associations at the time over video games, how, and violent movies, and how watching Rambo 3 was going to turn us all into psychopathic killers, and, all that childish nonsense that, video games turns children into, and I remember the ridiculous anti-drug campaigns of then as well, which didn't stop anyone from taking drugs, because now we know that that's not how addiction works. To tie in with our previous segment on betting, it's just so corny, and that the Serie A is still stuck in 1989 with, looking into I can just see this playing out, like this. Do
they really think that people are gonna, even though this isn't a problem, but do they really think that people are not gonna, get a dodgy satellite box because you're telling them that your team would be able to buy a centre forward?
It's nonsense too. It's like, that's what I mean. It's like a marketing meeting from 1989. You look into the camera seriously and say, I want to bring the best players, but I can't afford because of piracy. And it's like, no, like, no one's buying it. No one's buying it when you're like you said, the stadiums look like they do. The TV rights are as atrocious as they are. It's got nothing to do with the way you market and sell the league and your failure to monetize it, but it's somehow piracy that's the reason. It's like, when you have no self-awareness, the complete lack of self-awareness is, and the comical way as well. And then you add, the piracy thing and the way I wanted to buy a top-class centre forward, but piracy stopped me. It's just, I can't take it seriously. It's just so corny. It's so unbelievably awkward and corny.
Yeah, it certainly is. Right, let's leave it at that. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Slightly longer show, and we'll have a Q&A later in the week, and also a reaction to Inter in the Champions League.
We'll have a Q&A show, and we'll also have a post-match reaction on Thursday for the European slots, including the Inter game, because the Inter game is on Wednesday. So yeah.
Okay. All right.
So that's for patrons only. That's for patrons only.
Yeah, that's for patrons only. Well, okay. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening and for watching. If you've watched, we will see you next time. Ciao, ciao.